right. We are back in session, and Mr. Lipton, good afternoon, sir. Would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and your DOC number.
My name is Keith Lipton. DOC number is 371-486.
All right, Mr. Lipton, and you have counsel with you today. Counsel?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Robert Lancaster with the LC Global Industry representing. With me is Jacob Buckley, student, enrolled in the clinic. He is not certified in the 20. But he did prepare Mr. Lipton for the hearing and the packet was submitted to the committee in advance. He's prepared to make a statement of support at the conclusion of the hearing if the committee deems it.
All right, thank you. And we will ask Mr. Lester at the end to give us his closeout for us. Let me acknowledge the folks that we have who joined us. We have Kiara Lipton, Gail Stewart in the Parole Project, who will be speaking on behalf of Mr. Lipton. We also have a representative of the DA's office in Jefferson, who will be speaking at the appropriate time as well. Mr. Lipton, you are classified as a second felony offender. You're currently serving a 49.5-year sentence for armed robbery, simple burglary, illegal possession of stolen things, and attempted armed robbery. And you're serving as a habitual offender. You have a parole eligibility date, which was March 21st, 2023. You have a good time date, March 1st, 2048. Your full term date is February 16, 2049. Does all that sound right to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And I did not introduce the panel to you. My name is Cheryl Renatza. Mr. Boucher seated to my left, Mr. Freeman is seated to my right. Your case has been assigned to me this afternoon, and so I'll take the lead on the interview. So how old are you, Mr. Lipton?
I'm 45 years old.
And how long have you been serving on this 49.5-year sentence?
Just about 24 years. August will be 24 years.
24 years. And as I reviewed the record, the armed robbery and attempted armed robbery, I believe, was that two separate incidents in 1999. I see on August the 9th, you forced your way into a home at gunpoint, threatened to kill the victims, demanded some money. Then a few days later, on August 12th, there was an incident in the Walmart parking lot which also involved a firearm, where you demanded money from the victim. Is that right?
That's right. That's correct.
And I see multiple counts of armed robbery on your record. So tell us what was going on with you. Why were you involved in this kind of activity?
Well, I had a huge drug problem, and I needed fast cash. And at the time, that was the easiest way for me to get money. I got my hands on a gun, and I chose to go into, to rob people for money to get fast cash to support a drug.
What was the drugs?
Well, marijuana, cocaine, as well as heroin. I used all three in my life.
What about alcohol?
Well, I've never been a fan of alcohol. I've drunk beer before, a little liquor, but alcohol wasn't what I was chasing money for.
Yeah, so how old were you when you started the drugs?
I want to say marijuana. I started marijuana maybe at 14, maybe 13, 14, 16, dabbled with cocaine and a little heroin. But I was going through a lot. I mean, I've been through a lot in my time, and what led me to the drugs was I had a big empty void in my life. I was, it's not really hard for me to talk about now because my healing process began a while back, but I was sexually abused while I was in the Boy Scouts when I was younger. And when I started doing the drugs, it made that pain go away. I didn't see the pain anymore. I was able to cope with it. And as I got older, and I started being open about what took place with me when I was younger, you know, with my mother, daughter, you know, I talked to them about it. It started the healing process. But before the healing process, you know, that's what I was going through. And those were my ways to deal with what I was going, the pain, the drugs.
So you think what was, at what point in your life did that healing process begin and how did that come about?
Well, the healing process came about when my daughter was young. She was about 3, 4 years old, just talking to her on the phone, wondering Daddy, when you coming home and stuff. And I believe right after that was the first time I opened up about my situation to the family. And that's when the healing process began. Let's say like 2003. And she was about 5 years old at the time.
Had any therapy since being in prison?
Well, no, not really. It was like, it's a coping mechanism. Whereas let's say I was around drugs while I was in the Louisiana State Penitentiary. And once I opened up about that, I found out that took the place, my loved ones, my mother, took the place of the void that was filling in the void that I had in my life. And that was like my coping mechanism. Once I opened up about that, I used my family. I brought my family into my life because I had been away from them because I'm running the street, facing drugs, and I'm not really there for them. Now that I'm sitting down in prison, you know, I came home about that. They do.
Okay, we're having a computer issue, so I'm going to be talking in that direction so you can hear me, because that's where the microphone is. So I'm still paying attention, but I would be looking at you on another computer screen. Our system is rebooting, so we're having to rely on the backup. So tell me about your disciplinary history. How many write-ups you had in your record?
Usually about 32, 33.
Yeah, well, I see some of them were combined, but the record shows there's 38, the last being in 2019, and the last 2 were for aggravated work offense. Do you remember the circumstances around those write-ups?
Yes, ma'am. That happened during the time where I was in the field at the time, field work, and I was going through a process of getting orthopedic shoes. And I was having real problems with my feet. So those incidents really had to do with that. I chose not to go out to work because my feet were hurt.
Well, my feet hurt me this morning. I'm still here. All right, tell us about your programs. You know, you have several programs that you've taken. Which one did you get the most out of?
I would have to say Inside Outside Day, because it taught me how to communicate and with my daughter, which is a huge part of my life. It taught me how to be close to her, even from a distance, simply by listening. You know, it helped me be there for her, and not just for my daughter. I mean, it helped me open up and be able to listen to more than just my daughter, but people in general. But I've also learned a lot from Victim Impact, you know.
Have you completed that program?
I have maybe 2 weeks left. I'm about 2 weeks left.
So you're enrolled in it now. Well, you know, I don't see, you talked to me earlier about your substance abuse drug problem. Have you taken anything to help you with that? I don't see that, and you didn't mention it.
Well, I had felt like I was doing a good job, you know, having my family there. That had been my coping mechanism. But I'm definitely open to drug rehabilitation. I've been backlogged for Living in Balance, which is a substance abuse class, waiting to start that. But I thought I had been doing pretty well, you know, just holding on to my loved ones.
Well, would you consider yourself a drug addict?
Yes, and I can always use other classes to help strengthen me as a person because I want to be the best me that I can be.
So if you're, once you're acknowledged, once you're a drug addict, you will be for the rest of your life. And there's things that you need to do to ensure that you stay sober. So what is your sobriety plan?
Sobriety?
How are you gonna stay sober?
Basically, I plan on continue doing what I'm doing, surrounding myself with people that love me. That's been getting me through a lot. It got me through plenty of situations where I've been around drugs in prison, and I've taken numerous drug tests, and I've passed. I've never failed the drug test. But my support system has been my family, my mother, my loved ones, and wanting to be a better person. I don't want to go backwards. I've come too far to go back. But they say the first thing about addiction is admitting you have a problem. I've admitted that I had a problem to the closest people to me, and that also helped with my healing process too. And I'm always willing to learn more because, like I say, I want to be the best me I can be.
A little more specific plan, maybe the Living in Balance will help you with that.
Yes, I believe it will.
And you have, I see you have completed forklift operator training. Can you tell us a little bit about, if you were successful, you were released on parole, how would you support yourself?
Oh, I would definitely go out there and get a job. I have no problem working. I've been working in the kitchen here for over a year now, and I've been thriving there. I have experience in the healthcare field too. I was a healthcare all at Louisiana State Penitentiary, also as a tier walker. I learned a lot doing both jobs. I thrived in each one of them. I have no problem working whatsoever.
What kind of job did you have before you came to prison?
I worked at GES. I was loading and unloading 18-wheelers at the convention center, to help set up inside the convention center where they would have their booth set up. We unloaded the trucks in the back and brought the items to the appropriate spots.
Right. Yeah, I do recall reading that. Thank you. I don't have any other particular questions. I'd like to hear from the warden and then we'll hear from your guests. Warden, is there anything you can add?
Yes, ma'am. As we spoke earlier, as we referred to, he's currently enrolled in our Victim Impact Program. Actually, I'd like to speak that. I want to speak that. And he is finally on backlog for the balance go through the program. And I believe he needs that prior to his release. He's done some good things. He is a Strive member. He has obtained his GED while he's been incarcerated. So those are commendable things. But I think he's going to need some help. I appreciate the fact that he's going to rely on family support, but he's going to need some professional help with the drug problem because that was the root of all his issues. So I think all that.
Thank you, sir. I agree. We'll hear now, Mr. Lipton. We'd like to hear from your daughter, Kiera. Go ahead. There you go.
Good morning. Well, good evening. So I just wanted to say, throughout the years, my dad and our relationship has grown, and it's been amazing. From visitations to phone calls, and I was young when he went to jail, but over time, as I became an adult, I feel like our family is incomplete, and I just want to get the missing piece to our puzzle to make it complete again. He has been determined since he's been incarcerated from taking classes and doing what needs to be done so he can be set free and lead by example. I will support and stand by his side throughout this entire process and after. He has family, kids and grandkids that loves him and visits him daily. It's nothing like physically seeing and being around your dad. I'm sorry.
Okay, very good, very good. Miss Gail Stewart.
Yes, I'm Gail still. Thank y'all for accepting me in this. Yes, I plan on supporting Key in every way that he needs to be supported. And I need him home so he can teach his grandson who's given a little problem, even though he's 4 years old. But if he can talk to him, he'll let him know what all he went through so he won't go down through that same road. So, he will be a big help while he's home. And like I said, I will help him anyway, in every way that I can. I love him. And I know he's been gone for a long time. And I'll be glad to see him home. I know my mama will, because she just passed last month before last.
Sorry for your loss. Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate your comments.
All
Mr.
right.
Myers, Borough Project.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon. Kerry Myers of Louisiana Parole Project. Mr. Lipton has already served more than half of his sentence. You can see that he's not the 21-year-old that went to prison. A very significant difference between 45-year-old man who's sitting before you today and the 21-year-old who went to prison. Parole Project will provide him with the transitional support that he needs. He'll go through evaluations, both substance abuse and mental health evaluations. With our social work staff, we will ensure that he complies with any of those recommendations made by that staff. We will help him once he finishes our program in residence. We will continue to support him once he goes to his permanent residence in New Orleans by making sure he's connected to any of the follow-up services or programs. And of course, he has an extremely supportive family there, also waiting to help him through this transition. So we ask the board to consider all these things in today and grant Mr. Lipton his parole.
All right, thank you. Now we'll hear from Mr. Meyer with the DA's office. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Randy Meyer, Assistant DA, Jefferson Parish. We're opposed to Mr. Lipton's request at this time. It's some violent crimes that he has committed. He's got a violent and dangerous record. He was sentenced to 4.5 years incarcerated. And looking at what he's done in prison is somewhat concerning. He's got a poor disciplinary record, 38 total disciplinary reports. The last were 5 in 2019, so it looks like he may be kind of turning around a little bit, but he's also had 7 sex offense disciplinary reports, which is very concerning, particularly with what he had told us about when he was younger today. He's had few other rehabilitative programs. He's basically, I believe, taken 100 hours. Now is in victim impact, which he hadn't completed, and he's done Inside Out Dad. I think he clearly needs some significant substance abuse treatment before he's released, and I'd like to see additional rehabilitative programs as well. The only thing he's taken to really assist him with jobs is the lift truck operator certificate that he obtained. And I think he needs more than just his family support to cope with both his substance abuse problems and the criminal activity. So for those reasons, we're opposed today.
All right, sir. All right, Mr. Lipton, before we turn it over to Mr. Lester, is there something you'd like to say to us?
I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I want the victims to know that I'm sorry for what I've done to them. Both the pain, the horrifying things that I did, I wouldn't want no one doing that to my family. I have a real in-depth understanding of impact what my actions cause, and whenever I am released, I plan on living a crime-free, non-violent life.
I'm glad to hear that. Good. Mr. Lester?
I want to start by thanking the board for giving me this opportunity to speak. I want to start by going into some concerns you may have had about Mr. Lipton's past drug abuse. While he hasn't had any substantial drug treatment courses in name, he has had them in essence. He's gone through the steps needed to address that he, 1, has a problem, 2, what was the cause of that problem, 3, what damage would that problem was causing him to create, and 4, how to distance himself from his problem. This isn't everything he needs, but it's a good start, and it shows that it's worked for him to keep him clean over these over 20 years that he's been incarcerated. I would also propose that if the board does have reservations for letting him out without having living imbalance, that they grant him a contingent release where they allow him to take living imbalance within the 9 months after his following this, Mr. Lipton has also agreed to enter into rehabilitation after release in between entering the parole project if necessary. And following this, he would seek long-term entry into an NA program at his hometown. As for Mr. Lipton's past write-ups, he was still working on himself throughout this time. He was originally dealing with a life sentence with no opportunity to get himself out of prison, and it took him a long time to address the concerns that he was dealing with and working through his past abuse. So it's understandable that he had some trouble acclimating himself. But as you can see, over almost 4 years ago, he's managed to turn his life around and has no longer received any write-ups. And up to 2 years ago, where he came to this facility, he's managed to thrive and work a job in the kitchen, which has had him getting up at 1 a.m. and going out and doing hard, strenuous labor, where he's had to help prepare food for the entire prison. This isn't an easy job, and he's managed to do it with no complaints and no issues, while also managing to keep up with his programming and keep himself out of trouble. That's not nothing. He also is no longer a threat to society. I mean, he's gone 4 years without any write-ups, and he also has a low Tiger score, which is indicative of him having a very low chance of recidivism. He's also completed multiple programming courses while he's been in prison that have helped him to better himself and to learn what exactly was causing him to go down this dangerous path. Keith also has an amazing reentry plan as he is situated with the parole project to receive necessary reentry programs that will help him to reintegrate himself into society and position himself for the best chance of continuing this rehabilitation on the outside. He also has such a strong support network from his family who will stand by him through everything he goes through. We ask that you, board, finds that Keith finds mercy on this day and grants Keith Lipton parole. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Lipton, your case was assigned to me. I'll be voting first. I heard very clearly from you that you had a very serious drug addiction. We'll call it that, an addiction. You admitted that it was an addiction. I also heard from the DA's office the concern that, lacking a long-term substance abuse program, we wonder if you would be successful. The only way I can ensure that you get that is I want to. This is my vote. I'll just say this. I'm going to vote to conditionally grant you parole after you complete a long-term intensive substance abuse program. After that, to the parole project transition plan, where I have confidence that in their substance abuse and mental health evaluation and whatever they say you need to do, that's what you need to do. That's going to be a condition of parole. That's my vote. Mr. Roche.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Lipton, I also heard a desperate and serious need for substance abuse. I think living in balance will not be enough. So I'm going to agree with Ms. Renaza, and I'm going to grant conditionally upon completing a DOC long-term substance abuse program and other conditions placed on you by Mrs. Renaza.
Mr. Freeman.
I agree with both of my colleagues, and I also grant conditional on completing long-term substance.
All right, take advantage of the opportunity, Mr. Lipton. Good luck to you. You've been granted parole.
Thank you very much.